today is artificial intelligence, myths, realities, and opportunities. I would be focusing more about the opportunities because it's easy to call a myth, it's easy to explain why it's a myth and bust it. It's also easy to state the facts, tell you the realities. But that doesn't change anything. That only informs. What changes is looking at an opportunity and then grabbing that opportunity. And number of days, number of months I have been speaking on artificial intelligence. I have done extensive work in artificial intelligence, designing it as well as helping people to cope up with its impact. And I think this is a time where AI has reached to a stage. The number of people required to build the AI versus number of people required to deal with AI, that balance is shifting. There is no more need to keep designing AI, but to deal with it. And here's the reason why. Because it's AI, right? How many of you have heard terms such as no code or low code or graphical user interface based programming? And what does that mean to you? 10 to 15 years ago, if you would have asked an engineer that what's your specialization and why do you want to do that, such as maybe PHP, Java, C++, C#, .NET, number of other things. The only objective or the goal of these people has been, I will learn the language, I will master it, and I will use it to program systems, design systems for a number of years, and then I'll upgrade myself to the new language. And this is what we're talking about, 5 to 10 years of a time span. So you learn, you do your engineering 4 years, spend some time using that language, using that knowledge for another couple years, and then you move on to the next one. But these days, the changes are happening at such a rapid pace. Every 6 months, there is a new language. By the time you finish learning the language, it's obsolete. By the time you learn a new technology, that's old. So what do you do now? If you start wishing that fine, I will go and learn something and then I'll get a job and then I'll work on it, that's not going to happen. Because by the time you do that, the opportunity is already gone. You're working on old thing. It's very difficult to work on the new thing these days because the pace at which things are changing is enormous. And not just that, there's also a competition. So now you're CSE, ISE students, right? And it's fair assumption that you would have is if you have to compete for jobs, if you have to compete for any work for that matter, you probably would be competing with other CSE, ISE students. Is that right? How many of you think that is the case? That you will be competing with not just this bunch of people, but you will be competing with every CSE, ISE student in all other institutions. How many of you think that is the case? Please raise your hands. Most of you think that, right? What if I tell you that's simply not true? You are not only competing with this group of people, you are competing with all the people who are not attending this session today. Mechanical, electrical, electronics, even civil, and all other engineering branches. Not just engineering branches. You are also competing with MCAs, BCAs, BCS, and all other ones. You are not only competing with them, you are also competing with BA, BComs, and others. And not just that, you are also competing with people who have just done ITIs or some training courses in NIIT and something like that. And why is it? Because as the technology is growing, as it is becoming simpler, you are not required to type your code anymore. You do sometimes, but not all the time. Half the time you will see you are typing a code and then it shows you the predicted next thing. Right? Number of GUIs, number of low code, no code systems literally mean you just need to drag and drop the logic, the flowchart, and the code is written in the back. So if that is the case, why do I need a full-blown systems engineer to write a code for me? I can hire someone with probably lower salary and get the same job done. And that's what businesses think. That's how the business works. You reduce your cost, you increase your revenue. That's how you make profit. And then I'll add fuel to this agony. For a number of years, we have seen that India has seen outsourcing regime where Wipros and TCSs and Infosys and Cognizance and companies like that have built big empire, big companies by selling, by getting outsourced work, mostly from US, Europe and other countries. So what those countries would do, essentially there is a cost arbitrage, meaning hiring someone in that country is way more costlier than hiring someone offshore. So they will outsource their jobs to these companies, and these companies will get people like you and I, pay us decent salaries, and still they will make money. That's how the outsourcing has worked so far. Unfortunately, costs have been rising. Our salaries has to rise. So that cost advantage is decreasing. At the same time, because of automation, because of number of progresses, even people in other countries do not have enough jobs. It's not just the case that there are layoffs in 4,000 and 5,000 and 10,000 people here. It's the same case with all other countries. Which means they got to look at their own employment first before even outsourcing. Which means people don't get work here. You don't get outsourced work here, which means you can't employ these many people. So we already have seen, if you have been tracking news, what happened in November, how many people lost their jobs, right? And not just that, in addition to this, and because the layoffs are happening, all our friends, families, or whoever has been going from here to outsourced countries, they also are losing their jobs. What that means, they are coming back. So when they are coming back, what do you think they're going to do? Right? What do you think they will do? They will come and stand in the line along with you to apply for the job, to get those jobs done. So now it's not just you who are competing with your friends here. You are competing with all other mechanical, electrical, all other engineering branches. You are competing with all other non-engineering branches. You are competing with all other people. Basically, every single person who is at the age of employment, you are competing with them. And you are also competing with people who are coming from other countries, people returning from abroad. And everyone wants to get the work, so the price is just the same. So the competition has grown 10-fold, 20-fold. And if you are thinking that it's easier to get out and get the job, it's never been this hard. And it's not going to be easier anymore. It's going to be tougher and tougher. So now while I tell you such a gloomy picture of a future, this is the reality. So what can you do? What do we do now? So if this is the case, you might ask, what's the solution? Do you have a solution or do you only have problems? I think I have solutions. But then before that solution, let me give you some statistics. So what happened? A couple years ago, World Economic Forum released a report about future of work and number of skills that would potentially be required on a global scale. What new skills are required now? Because old skills like engineering, the trade specific skills are going away. Human specific skills, abstract skills are in vogue. So out of those 10 different skills that they announced, I can recall some of them. One is about structured and unstructured learning and unlearning, critical thinking, innovative thinking, first principle thinking, storytelling, people influencing skills, social skills, creative problem solving, creativity, and I think there are a few more. But none of those 10 skills have a word engineer in it. None of those 10 skills have any professional term in it. If you look closely, all these skills are very difficult to define. They are all personable skills. They are human-centric skills. And anyone, regardless of their degree, regardless of their stature, can acquire these skills. Innovation. Do you need a degree for that? Or do you need a specific teaching for that? Storytelling. No specific skill set required. Dealing with people, social influential skills. No skills, no specific education required. Critical thinking. Creativity. None of these things require really specific teaching mechanism. Does that mean engineering or any other degree is useless? Of course not. Education gives you a structured way of learning. So that's still there. Ability to learn in a structured manner. That's what engineering gives you. And it gives you in much better way than any other trade per se. Which is why you will see that engineers are easier, they find easier to adapt to the new technologies or new things. Because we have been taught how to think, how to learn new things. Unfortunately, none of us have been taught, not just engineers, but everyone, is how to unlearn, how to let go of the old stuff now and get on with the new one. But that again is untaught skill. So how do we do that? How do we learn these new things? Where is the coaching class? Which college teaches you this? And what can you do? And when should you start doing something about it? Right? When do you think it's a good time to start learning these skills? And whenever I ask this question, people typically say, fine, okay, the moment I finish my graduation, I'm going to start working on this. The moment I get a job, I'm going to start working on this. Or maybe maybe I have some gap between my 6th semester and 7th one, I'll learn in that. So let me give you an anecdote, let me tell you an example. And that will tell you when exactly you need to start learning new things. 1980s, 85 or 86, there was a lecture given by Dr. Albert Bartlett in one of the cities in US. And he was teaching his class about mathematics. He's a mathematician and he's talking about mathematics. And specifically, he's talking about exponential mathematics, exponential terms. And one of the things he says that the biggest problem with human race is inability to understand exponential function. We understand very clearly, very easily how linear algebra, linear things work, right? A car is coming from this way, it's driving at 60 kilometers an hour, I'm going this way. I know exactly should I run fast or slow. I know whether should I stop, whether should I change my course. I can estimate that speed, I can estimate what's going to happen. If that's not a car, maybe that's a tiger and I'm in a jungle, I can estimate what should I do. Because it's fairly linear. Most of our life you will see that things are linear because they are slower as well. But most of the natural things are not linear. So to give you an example, say, take a beaker, small experimental beaker, and if I put a bacteria in that beaker, the basic thing bacteria does is it splits. So bacteria splits, 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16 and likewise. And let's assume that rate of change is doubling every single minute. If I put this one bacteria at 11 o'clock in an empty beaker, and if at 12 o'clock the beaker is 100% full, at what time do you think beaker is half full? You want to take a guess? 11:59. That's exactly right. Most of us would think, oh, half 11:30. But it's a simple example, so you can guess. It's 11:59 when it is just half full. What happens at 11:58? It's quarter full, 25%. So 5 minutes ago, 11:55, how full was it? 3%? Round about 3%? So if you and I were one of those bacteria, let's assume that we are in that congested space in the beaker, and you and I are sitting, when do you think one of us will say there is a problem? Let's say if I'm that intelligent bacteria and I say, hey, there seems to be a problem, man. We are doubling and we don't have space. And my bacteria friend says, are you crazy? Look, this is just 3% full. 97% space remaining. What are you saying there is a problem? There is no problem. 1 minute later, 11:56, I say, man, there is a problem, I think. No, it's just 6% full. 94% remaining. 56, 57, 58, 59. I say, look, this is half full now. Half full, half empty. Glass half full, half empty. Be optimistic, there is no problem. 12 o'clock, there is no time to talk. Run. It's already full. And this is what is happening. The rate at which technology is changing. When I say every 6 months there is a new language, things are changing that fast. Which means we as a humans can't keep up with these changes that we are introducing. And there will be sooner a time where that change will exceed our capability to handle that change. Just like this bacteria. So when do you think is the right time to realize you need to change? Is that 11:59? Is that 11:58, 55, 54? What that number is? When should you be changing? Yes? Well, there is no right answer to it. The only right answer is when should you start changing is today. That's the earliest you can do. You can't start changing yesterday. All you have in your control is today, is now. You start changing now. You start understanding, accepting that there's going to be a change that probably you won't be able to cope up with or handle it easily. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be the case that some of us said, I will look after it whenever it comes. I will handle it. No, you have to start preparing now. And you have to keep continuously preparing. That's the fast-paced world we live in. So the obvious question comes in, besides learning technology, besides learning these things in the books, in the lecture halls, on YouTube or somewhere else, what about those 10 skills that are mandatory, that anyone can learn anywhere and anytime? What about that? How can you develop those skills? So remember, one of the skills it says is the first principle thinking. Have you heard of the term first principle thinking or first principle method? You must have learned that in mathematics, especially during parabola, hyperbola, or something like that. Sounds familiar? First year, second year? We have learned that, right? So what that first principle thinking actually means? It's not mathematical term, it's a general term. And what it means is whenever you're thinking about solving a problem, you don't start with assumptions. You don't start with assumptions that have been stated by someone else. All the things that you take into account are scientific facts, natural facts, and whatever is the information available to you, next to you. If you are saying that, okay, because someone somewhere has said this, so we begin with that as a reference and we move from there. So you are standing on some of the work that other person has done. So that's not first principle. First principle is the fresh ground, you start there. When you are starting on the basis of somebody's work, sometimes it might help you, but more often it is like a crutch. You're standing on somebody else's work and that may not be effective enough. That may not be right at all. It may be right, but that may not be relevant now. And so number of such issues come in, and which is why first principle thinking is more important. Let me give you an example on that. We all know SpaceX, right? We heard Elon Musk. Elon Musk has founded this company called SpaceX, and number of engineers in SpaceX have been thinking on a first principle basis. How many of you know what does it take to send a rocket in the space? How much money does it take to send a rocket in space? Any guesses? Yes? It takes round about 57 to 60 million US dollars. So if you convert that into Indian rupees, probably about 400 crores. Let's stick to the smaller number, $60 million. That's what it takes to send one Falcon 9 rocket in the space. And I'm talking only about the rocket, not the satellite, not the payload. Just the vehicle, just like your motorbike, not your way. So the rockets cost 60 million, including fuel. So how much do you think fuel cost is? If 60 million is the rocket, how much is the fuel cost? Any guesses? Shut the number. 20 million. Any other person? 30 million. 30 million one. Anyone else? Sorry? 30. So the right answer is the amount of fuel that it takes, and it costs you about $200,000. $60 million vehicle, and the fuel is 200,000. What's the percentage? Engineers, what's the percentage? 60 million to 200,000. Should be quick. About 0.4%, isn't it? About 3.3 something. Let's say it's 0.4%. So you have such a massive overhead. And SpaceX people have been asking the same question. Why does it take so much money to send the rocket in space? Why is it such a costly affair? Well, the fixed cost is the major cost which you can't reduce. It's a fixed cost, right? The vehicle is a fixed cost. Just take an analogy. Most of you have bikes. I think all of you have bikes. How much typical a bike costs? 60, 70, let's say 60K for instance. Now if you go into a showroom to buy a bike and the salesman says, look, you can buy this bike. It's got a 15 liters of a tank capacity. So 70 rupees a liter. You fill in like maybe 10 liter capacity, you fill in 700 rupees of a fuel, 60,000 of a bike. You drive it once, that's it. Just like a rocket. You send once, it falls apart, it pushes the payload, fuel is burned, rocket is scrapped, done. 60 million gone. Imagine doing the same thing with your bike. You buy the bike, pay the money, fill the tank, come to the college, throw it away. Can you imagine doing that? No. It's absurd. You can't do it. We can burn the fuel, but we want to reuse the bike. And that's how the efficiency, that's how the per kilometer effectiveness of the bike comes from. Right? So if you have driven the bike for say 50,000 kilometers during its lifespan, you say, now I have recovered my money. Right? That's how we think. Why don't we think the same way for rocket? Well, fortunately, SpaceX guys thought like that. They said, why don't we reuse the rocket rather than just sending and throwing it away? Which is why they have been working on reusable rockets. And most likely, the last test has been successful. And there's a video on YouTube, and you might see that two boosters come back, land on the ground after sending the satellite in the space. What does that mean to a competition, to a business? See, SpaceX is not just the only company that manufactures rocket. There's another company named Blue Origin. NASA also manufactures rockets. Russian companies manufacture rockets. ISRO manufactures rockets. And they all compete every time someone wants to send their payload, they want to send a satellite into space, they will call for quotations. That we want to buy a rocket, we want to buy your service, how much does it cost? SpaceX would say, oh, this is 60 million. ISRO will say 400 crores, round about the same price. So mostly everyone has got the same price tag. So there's rarely anything to compete with, right? Imagine SpaceX goes and says, well, we can do it in 30. Why? Because we will reuse it. Instead of 60 million, we reuse the rocket twice, the cost is half, we'll give it in 30. Who do you think is going to win the bid? Simple. Now they get the bid for 30 and then they decide that we can actually use this rocket 4 times. Where is the profit? Half. 15 million profit. Cost of the rocket? Half. From 60 to 30 to 15. Use it 2 more times? Another half. Exponential reduction in the price, in the cost. Use it for 1 year, every month once. That's like 5 million per launch. It would be less than the satellite cost now. And that's how the exponential functions add to this first principle thinking. When you start, you don't go by saying, oh, because everyone builds the rocket same way, and I will rely on their thinking, and I won't use my first principle foundational thinking. I'll just go by what they are saying and do it. That means I will never think on my own feet and go by first principles. Going by first principles gives you a leverage, gives you a massive advantage. So learn to think on a first principle basis. Learn to think on your feet without any dependencies. Just start with the facts and see how you can come up with the answer. If you can't, keep practicing. There is no other way to learn these things. They are all learned by doing things. Right? Let's talk about another piece called as innovation. How do you develop the attitude, or how do you develop yourself to be innovative? What does it take? What course do you go to? What book you read to become innovative? There is none. But being innovative needs at least 3 things. The first thing you need is to be curious. Being curious means you ask questions. You ask questions, why is it this way? Why does it work like this? Why can't it work like this? How does this happen? What happens after this? Inquisitive questions. Seek for answers. And when you seek for answers, when you ask questions, you become curious. Obviously, you will search for answers. When you search for answers, you will know more. You will find different ways these things work. Just the same way, SpaceX guy. How does rocket work? Why do I need to scrap it? Why don't I use it? So all these questions they have been asking and they have been finding answers have led them to do this. So if you are simply sitting and taking the world as it is, oh, this is it? Okay, I don't mind. But instead of that, if you are inquisitive, if you are curious, you will ask question, why is it like that? Can it be different? At least you will learn something. So being curious is one. The number 2 thing is being courageous. So let's say you're being curious. You've been curious enough and you ask questions, you ask right questions and you get answers. And sometimes you will find something totally new which can radically change something, such as a rocket again. But if you are not courageous, you won't take any action. You will keep thinking, why does this work in particular way? Because of so and so thing. But now you know, that's incorrect. There is a better way to do it. Now you have thought about it, but you are not taking an action. action to do that better way. Most of the times we think, what if someone else says something? What will my friend say? What will my neighbor say? What will my parents say? What would the world think of me? And because I have those inhibitions, I don't take action. What if I fail? What if I lose money? What if I fall down? Well, you try to stop failure by not doing something, by not taking action. And when you don't take action, nothing happens. So you are not being innovative, you are just being dull. Take action. People don't even fail, you will at least fail. And when you fail, you learn. You will know more than people who haven't even failed. You will know how to fail. Remember Edison, how many times he has failed to create industrial light bulb? How many times? Over 1,000 times he has failed before he finally succeeded. And the way he says is, no, more number of ways the bulb doesn't work. When someone else is going to experiment on it, they might try one of those things which this person already knows how it doesn't work. That's a gold of knowledge. Right? People will pay you to know what doesn't work because they don't want to fail. You have failed, so they will pay you to know what not to do. Right? That is the power of having courage to take an action. Now the third thing comes. So you've got a curiosity, you've got a courage. But then none of that would be useful if you don't have resilience to persist, to continue taking action. You've got curiosity to find something, courage to start doing something. So now you start doing it. But eventually, and I call this as the BSO Syndrome, bright shiny object syndrome. So what does that mean? You're going in one direction, you've taken that courage to go in that direction, and swoosh, something goes by. And as a fickle-minded humans we are attracted. Oh, what is that? Let me go this way. And now you're going this way. Swoosh, something goes. Oh, let me go this way. And all the time we are attracted by those bright shiny things that happen in our life. You are studying, ping, Facebook message comes. Okay, what is in Facebook? Tong, email comes, go in email. Bing, someone rings the phone. What you have been doing? You were reading, from there you went to Facebook, from there you went to Gmail, from there you went somewhere else. And you haven't done any of these things completely. And because you haven't finished any of that job, you're not going to see the result. And then we get frustrated. None of the things in my life works. How will it work? You don't even finish it. Once you start, you have to finish it. There are only two ways you can finish. A, you succeed and you finish. B, you fail, learn the lesson and finish. There is no third way to finish it. So, and that needs resilience, that needs focus. Even if it is a bright shiny object, anything interesting, just remember one thing. Even if you like that object, you're not going to get it. Because of the same attitude that if you lose the focus, you go behind it and then the same thing will happen. You won't get this, you won't get that, and you won't get any of it. So what is better? To get one full thing or none of those things? So it's logical. You at least get one full thing and then you move to the next. That takes resilience, that takes focus. Right? You've got curiosity, courage and focus. But they have to be supported with other three things. One of the things I told you, first principle thinking. The second thing that you need, so these three plus first principle, and you need resourcefulness. What is the difference between using resources and being resourceful? Simple. You use resources, but you become resourceful. So resourceful is a trait, it's a habit, it's the way you work. Resources are finite things. Most of the people, even employees, get stuck because they don't have resources. You want to do something, I don't have resources. Oh, well, did you get this job done? Well, my laptop is not working, or my phone is not working. Why do you need phone? The guy is sitting out there in the cubicle. Resources. I don't have resources, but because I don't have resources, I'm just stuck. I don't even think. Being resourceful means you don't get constrained by those showstoppers. You think, and you think from solutions perspective, what you want to do, and how do I get there? Doesn't matter what I have to get there. If I have something, wonderful, I'll use it. If I don't have it, I will find a way to do it. I remember when I was kid, probably in 4th or 5th class, and I was part of Scouts and Guide, right? So we had this district level competition, and so all these schools from different cities have come in to participate. All the Scouts and Guide kids. So we went to one of the place, probably it was a district office, commissioner office or something, which has got a large playground, and there were a number of tournaments happening. So while that was happening, in the recess, my friend and I, we went to drink water. We went towards the tank, and because it was an adult facility, all the tanks were at the height, so we couldn't reach. And we saw there were a couple of kids, and from the attire we could guess that they were probably from some high class city school. But regardless of that, we were wondering why they standing there. First we spotted them, and then we saw the taps are a bit higher. So we kind of guessed that okay, they are not able to drink the water. So but then my friend and I looked at each other, and without even saying, we knew what to do. So he bent down on his knee, and I stood on his back. I drank the water. Then I took a turn. He drank his water, and we both went away. 10 minutes later, we saw a teacher going that day. A teacher had a small stool. Teacher put that stool. These kids one by one stood on the stool, drank water, and then came in. What does it tell you? There was a bunch of kids who were waiting for resource to be available. And we have been, and because we have lived in those constraints, I have lived in those constraints all my life. So some way I have developed that thinking that not having resources is not really a showstopper for me. If I am set to get something, I'll find a ways to get that. And that's what helped me to quench my thirst much earlier, rather than standing thirsty waiting for stool to come in. We just did that. We found a way. Maybe if we wouldn't have thought about standing on each other's back, we would have done something else. Maybe we would have taken bricks that were lying around and made a stool. Something definitely we would have done rather than waiting and doing nothing, because our focus is there. Our focus is drinking water, not using what is available. And that's how we have to think. Don't wait for calculator, don't wait for vehicle, don't wait for mobile phone or email or computers or any other resource. Focus on your goal. You have curiosity, you have got courage, you are being resilient, you are thinking right on first principles. Be resourceful and get there. And not just get there. So now you need the third part, and that is being agile. There's a difference between urgent and being agile. Urgent means there is a fire. That's urgent. Agile means without fire you move fast, because you value time. It's not a relaxed world anymore. If there is an opportunity, what are you waiting for? Go and get it. Unless there is a time constraint, You have to go, be fast, agile, get it done. So these are the 6 things: curiosity, courage, resilience, first principle thinking, resourcefulness, and agility. If you have got all 6 things, and they're not a software that you download and you become that. You have to practice. You have to actively keep doing it. Nobody is going to teach you. How will you do it? Question is, how do I become resourceful? How do I become curious? Well, being curious is very simple. Be inquisitive, seek for answers. If you find something strange, if you find something that you don't understand, just ask questions. There are 2 things. When you are curious, this very interesting part, when you look at this World Economic Forum list of skills, very interesting thing is there that all are interrelated. While I'm saying innovation is one thing, while they're saying people influential skill is another thing. But think deeply, they are all connected. I'll tell you how. Being influential means you have to be empathetic. You have to understand that person genuinely. How can you be empathetic with someone? By being curious. See? By being curious, you can be innovative. By being curious, you can be empathetic as well. So what's the difference? If I'm curious about an object, a physical thing, something that is not human, mostly I'm curious, I will be innovative. I will find another way to use that object. At the same time, if I'm curious about a person, let's say your friend is angry or he's sad, and instead of just being dismissive, oh, this is sad, I don't want to talk to you, or you're angry, I don't want to talk to you, or I'll leave you alone. That's one way to deal with it. But instead of doing that, if you're curious, you say that, hey, what's the problem? What happened? Can I help you? Ask questions. Seek why he is the way he is. Why she is the way she is. Why is he sad? Why are they angry? Why are they nervous? Most likely they will tell you. Right? They're your friends. They're people you know. When they tell you why it is it, what are the chances that you will be able to help them? 100%. Once you know what is wrong, they're your friend, you will go and help them. Once you help, what happens? There is a bond. Both of you like each other more. Your friendship strengthens. Your human relation strengthens. You become influential. You influence each other. Simply by being curious, you have established that kind of a relationship. Simply by becoming curious about things, you started to think innovatively. See? So that is why it's very important. How do you become resourceful, by the way? Because this is very challenging for at least this generation. There was a time in my generation, or even probably 10 years ago, none of us had smartphones, let alone the college kids. Now even school kids have smartphones. So resources, they have more resources than what people have in the past. So how do you become resourceful if you already have resources? How do you learn that skill? Right? So you have to practice actively. Say for example, put your phone at home. Turn it off, put it home in the cupboard, don't bring it. One full day without phone. See what happens. Guaranteed you won't die, but see what happens. You will feel a bit frustrated, you will feel anxious. Deal with it. Get through entire day without the phone. If you try, you will succeed. You will learn different ways to deal with things. Gamify it. Put up a challenge with your friends. Who can live without phone for more number of days? Those who will get money. However, it's up to you how you put that challenge, but do it that way. Let's say one day you don't have access to your vehicle. How will you do? How will you travel anywhere? Do you know what is so interesting about backpackers? Have you seen backpackers people? They've got these huge bags on back of them, on their backs, and they travel different countries, right? Tourists. But there is a difference between normal tourist people and these backpackers. They're very, very resourceful. Or even people who climb mountains, mountaineering and all that. And reason why they are resourceful, because they live in constraints. When all you have is one bag on your back, and when you're traveling, what you need more? You need food, you need water, you need clothes, you need number of things. But you can't have your house on your back, right? You can only carry so much. So you carry less water, you carry less food, you carry less of everything. And then you deal with it throughout your journey. And that teaches these people, that will teach you how to make new ways of things work. How many times, and look, it hasn't been the case like we have been always looking at the Google Maps. There was a time when I'm at a corner and I don't know where to go, I'll simply ask, Bhaiya, where is this place? And I will talk to people. My communication skills will improve. Now the thing is, nobody talks. You just see Google Maps. Where should this go? Go this way. So you've got the resource, but you have stopped being resourceful. Once you don't use a phone for a day, you will know more people around you than you would have known otherwise. Once you build those relationships, it feels better, right? It's not robotic. Look, AI is taking all the robotic jobs. If you want to be robotic, be human. That's the best thing you can do. That's the only thing no AI can do. Having that human connection. And you can do that by being resourceful, by being inquisitive, by being curious, courageous, and resilient. So that's my message today. Build and imbibe those 6 traits in you. Be innovative, curious, courageous, resilient. Think on a first principle basis. Be resourceful and be agile. Thank you so much.